So I have already reacted to Sportsnet's top 32 rankings for the 2022 NHL draft class. So if you haven't checked that video already, go ahead and check it out after this one, of course. But today I'm going to be reacting to Elite Prospects top 32 rankings. Now, these are actually within the 2022 Elite Prospects draft guide, which is only available to Elite Prospects Premium members. However, technically, all of this information is publicly available. You just have to go to each individual player page and see where they're ranked, and you can compile their list that way. So I don't really feel uncomfortable with sharing this, but yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. Now, I will be doing it slightly differently from the Sportsnet video in that I'm just going to list off the players, how they have them ranked, and I will mention any players that I have significant um, disagreements about where they're ranked or just really notable rankings as well. So, their top 10 is the following: Shane Wright, David Juracek, Uri Slavkovsky, Logan Cooley, Frank Nazar, Simon Nemec, Pavel Mintyukov, Denton Mateychuk, Matthew Savoy, and Joachim Kamel. So the first of those players that really stands out to me is Frank Nazar. Nazar at 5 is a pretty bold ranking, I would say. He is risky. He's small, but he has a lot of skill, and he's a really good skater. And when it comes to pure upside, I'm not sure that there's many players in this draft class that I think have more upside than Nazar. So I do like it from that standpoint, but I'm not entirely certain uh, exactly how his game is going to project to the next level physically. Because he's an undersized player, he could end up having small player problems, which will impact how effective he is at the NHL level. So that could bring him back to earth a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's not a ranking that I necessarily totally disagree with. I just thought it was notable because that is significantly different, I think, than where a lot of people have him. The other main guy in the top 10 that I think is notable is Denton Mateychuk. This is significantly higher than I have him, and that is just because I am not convinced that Mateychuk's game is going to be extremely projectable to the NHL. I think in order to be effective, he might have to change the way he plays the game quite a lot. And that is kind of asking a lot for any hockey player. So I don't know. He's a really interesting case study. I think he does have the skill and the tools to be ranked this high. But for me, there is a little bit too much risk for that reward. Rounding out the top half of the first round are Cutter Gauthier, Marco Casper, Liam Ogren, Brad Lambert, Callie Odelius, and Owen Pickering. The only significant notes I have to make there are regarding Brad Lambert. I'm not sure that 14 is exactly too low on Lambert, given the way his season went. I do have him ranked higher, even though he has fallen for me. I have him roughly in the 6 to 10 range, but 14, it is a bit low, but I do understand it because of the perceived risk. I don't think he is as risky of a bet as maybe you might think he is. But you know, I don't know. He's another interesting case study. A little bit like Atu Ratu last year. I suspect is going to be kind of his trajectory as a prospect, and if he does follow that trajectory, then he could end up being one of the steals of the draft because Atu Ratu has developed quite well this year. So he could end up being one of the steals of last year's draft. So I think there's a bit to be learned from Ratu and apply it here to Lambert. But yeah, 14, kind of in no man's land for him to me. If he was a few spots lower, I would definitely say it's too low, but he's not quite there. Now, the second half of their first round starts with Conor Geeky, and then Jonathan Lekary-Mackey, Kevin Korchinski, Jagger Fergus, Owen Beck, Gleb Trikazov, Danila Yurov, Jimmy Snuggerud, Nathan Gaucher, got it right this time, Matthias Havlid, Noah Ostlund, Leon Bichel, Yuri Kulik, Ryan Chesley, Vladimir Grudenen, and finally Sam Rinzel. And in these group of guys, there are several that I have some things to say about. The first player I want to talk about is the very first one that they have in the second half of the first round, and that is Conor Geeky. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you might know that I am not a fan of Conor Geeky at all, and I think he's basically a late first rounder. And so 17 is a lot lower than other people have Geeky ranked. I believe with Sportsnet he was like 10 or 11, so that is a decent bit lower. For me, it's still too high. The skating is too big of an issue for me to have him that high. I would probably have him about 10 spots lower than that. Now, the next player that really stands out is Jagger Fergus. So, again, this is a guy I've talked about a lot. So, if you have seen some of my videos, you might know what I'm about to say here. But for me, 20 is way too low for Jagger Fergus. At this point, he is a borderline top 10 guy for me. I think he has the best shot, or one of the best shots, if not the best shot in the draft. I think there are very few, if any, players that have higher upside than him in terms of pure goal scoring at the NHL level. And the rest of his game is pretty solid too. He's a pretty solid playmaker. I think he could be a very effective top six forward, maybe even a top line winger. He is small. So again, he's a guy who could have small player problems, could get beaten off the puck, does get beaten off the puck a little bit easier than you would like, and that is largely due to his size. But if he can develop, if he can get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and a little bit better at evading pressure altogether in the first place, then with Fergus, sky's the limit. The last player I want to talk about here is Vladimir Grudenen. 31 for Grudenen to me is way too low. This is a guy who is arguably the best skater in the draft class, at least amongst defensemen. He's extremely mobile. I love his ability to carry the puck as well. And the main gripe with him is going to be his size and physicality. Because again, he's an undersized defenseman. I believe he's about 5'10". And there are kind of a lot of those guys in this draft class. But people are going to say he gets beaten off the puck too easily. You know, he's undersized, which makes him risky as a defenseman. And there is obviously a big element of truth to that. You know, undersized defensemen traditionally struggle defensively at the NHL level. I mean, not all of them do, but it is a disadvantage. And they also generally don't bring much to the game physically. But with Grudinen, the offensive upside is there to a point where that doesn't really bother me. And with regards to his physicality, he's actually pretty strong on the puck for an undersized defenseman. He is not nearly as easy to beat off the puck as I think a lot of people would expect given his stature. He is a pretty strong competitor, so he does not like to win. Doesn't like to win. He doesn't like to lose one-on-one battles. So even when he's going against stronger, bigger competition, he will turn it in a battle that might be like 60, 70% favored for the opponents. He could turn that into a 50-50 battle more often than not. So I don't think he's going to be a guy who has too much problems being strong on the puck compared to some other undersized defensemen in this class, anyways. So combine that with the fact that he is actually just an elite skater and a good puck handler who has good offensive skills as well with the puck. Yeah, just 31 is way too low for him. Now, some other notable absences from this list are Ivan Miroshnichenko, who they have just outside the top round at 33. Isaac Howard, they have ranked at 41. Christian Kyrou, they have ranked at 39, and Lane Hudson, who they have ranked at 47. Now, I'm not going to talk really about any of these players in this video, but those are all guys that I think have a lot of upside, and they are players that I would draft in the first round. So I did think that they were notable in that they're not in Elite Prospects top 32. That being said, that is the end of the video. So if you thought it deserved a like, please do give it a like. That really helps me out. And if you want to see my reaction to Sportsnet's top 32 rankings, I will leave that video right here.